Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Future B2B AI Impact Series. My name is Keith Ward, and I'm a moderator with Future B2B. I am so excited today to be your host for this special event on the integration of AI in the financial services industry. Now, this is a topic near and dear to so many hearts these days and tackles one of the fastest growing, most challenging areas out there. But before we get to the content, there are a few housekeeping items you need to know. First off, we want this to be an amazing event for you. So we have got two areas where you can engage over on the right-hand side of your console. First, you will see the chat tab. That is a spot to say hello, which a lot of you have already been doing. We love knowing who you are and where you are coming from. So let us know. That's also a good place for reactions to interesting things our experts say today, to share and you can share your thoughts, your insights, anything you're excited about that you're going to be hearing and learning about today. Now, you can also let us know in the chat area if you're having any technical difficulties at all. Meanwhile, two tabs over from the chat is the Q&A tab. Now, that is the place to enter your questions for the experts you are going to be hearing from today. Remember, ask away. They are here to talk to you. Now, also at the end of this webinar, we're going to be awarding a $250 Amazon gift card to one of you. Now, you do have to be in attendance during the entire live event to qualify for the prize, and the official terms and conditions of today's prize drawing can be found over in the Docs tab. Now, that Docs tab is right in the middle there between chat and Q&A, and it has a ton of great resources from today's sponsors. Check out what we've got there while the event unfolds. Also, today's event has a number of sponsors who make it possible to bring you this amazing content. So we want to give them a quick shout out and lightning fast overview of their offerings. We are sponsored and supported today by Glance. Every AI implementation in CX has the same blind spots. The moment a customer hits something too complex, too sensitive, or too high stakes for a bot, Glance Co-Browse uncovers these blind spots by enabling your experts to join the customer's screen in seconds. Glance works within the systems, tools, and communication channels you already have in place, so your team sees exactly what the customer sees. No new download for the customer and no workflow change for your teams, just instant resolution in the moments that matter most. Scan the QR code to explore demos, real customer results, and AI resources. Glance, the human safety net for your customers. We are also sponsored by NetApp. As financial services organizations begin their AI journey, success starts with the data. NetApp helps you securely connect, manage, and move data across on-premises environments, hybrid clouds, and public clouds, wherever it lives. With intelligent data infrastructure, enterprise-grade security, and NVIDIA-certified AI solutions, NetApp enables you to accelerate AI innovation while maintaining the governance, resilience, and flexibility that financial institutions require. The future of data infrastructure is moving fast. NetApp Insight is where the people shaping it come to go deeper. Join them September 29th through October 1st in Las Vegas. And finally, this event is also brought to you by Paystand. Paystand is the intelligent payment network built for agentic on-chain finance, already moving more than 20 billion in payments with more than 1 million businesses connected through their network. Here's the idea. Agentic AI runs the busy work, collections, cash application, reconciliation 24/7, while money itself moves instantly and globally on chain. So as your business grows, your costs don't grow with it, they actually go down. If you want to see what that looks like for your own AR process, scan the QR code here and learn more about Paystand. And with that, let's get to today's awesome content. You can see our speaker here, and I am so excited to get to talk to her and pick her brain. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road. And opening our session today is our keynote speaker, Melissa McGregor. She is Managing Director, Deputy General Counsel, and Corporate Secretary at SIFMA, the Securities Industry and Financial Markets Association. She is here to kick off our event and share with us her thoughts as to where the industry is headed. Melissa, it is great to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Okay, now what I'm going to do is give just a little bit of an overview, kind of set the field for us, and then we will get going on what I'm sure is going to be a fabulous discussion. So, in most industries, but especially in the financial services industry, AI, as we know, holds a lot of promise, but also brings with it some trepidation. I think there's no doubt about that. Now, Melissa, at SIFMA, you have a unique, almost bird's eye view of the industry and how leaders are adopting AI. So, first question for you today is the securities industry adopting AI solutions fast enough, or maybe too fast? What is your sense of how the adoption is going and how it should be?
Sure. Thanks, Keith. So, the securities industry and financial services more broadly does not adopt technology quickly as other industries frequently do. We're a heavily regulated industry, a lot of risk, and also have the trust and confidence of American investors at our feet. So having that overlay, I will say AI has dominated conversations we've had with our members for the past 3 to 4 years. Obviously, our members have had AI applications in use for decades, but the Gen AI revolution has really changed how firms are looking at AI and putting it at the fingertips of their employees. So I think it's been a really interesting transformation. 4 years ago, we were talking about how to blot ChatGPT and similar applications. Now firms are talking about how quickly they can roll those out to all of their employees. I think a few things have push that evolution. One is having enterprise licenses for all of these applications has really helped firms in their supervisory obligations and ensuring that their employees are using these tools in a ways that are compliant with existing regulations. But it has been a really interesting transformation, and only 3 to 4 years that we've made that big of a move is remarkable. And I've been in this industry for almost 30 years, and seeing this type of change in technology usage is unmatched, in my opinion.
I've been around a while too. And like you say, those of us who have been in the industry and in any industry that is in IT or even IT adjacent that has any connection has seen lots and lots of these technologies, game changing technologies. Come and go, and it's really AI is going as fast as any of them, have gone throughout. So, for 2027, Melissa, where do you see the most promise for AI applications going forward?
I think we'll continue to see similar trends. The areas where our members seem to be most out in front on AI is in back office and compliance functions. We've seen AI revolutionizing how firms do things like monitor for anti money laundering or communication surveillance, which is a huge burden on firms, and previously required things like a lexicon search or random sampling of communications. AI has changed that entirely. So being able to look across messaging platforms, perhaps find activity that's concerning for the firms that might need follow up, it has really changed how firms can use AI and improve their surveillance technology. It's freed up humans for actually following up on red flags. That can happen much more quickly now, and I think we'll see, as in the next several years, pretty much all vendors moving to that AI technology and for surveilling communications, as well as anti-money laundering. I think trading activity is another area where we're going to see more AI usage, particularly in the surveillance side. Um, I think there is a lot of interest from our members in having more customer facing AI usage, but that has its own risks, of course. And as soon as you're in a customer or client facing mode, you changes your risk profile and requires a lot more testing, background, everything. So that I think will come about. I don't know if it'll be 2027. I know there are some firms that are looking at that closely and might be rolling out pilots in that area. I don't think we'll see it widespread in the short term.
Right. Now, that's a great kind of summary of the promise. Now, you did mention the risks that AI brings with it. And we all know it's kind of a balance, is it? AI has tremendous potential to benefit, but that is the other side of that is the risks really seems to ramp up with AI as well. So, can you dive into that risk potential a little more? So, how can firms specifically how can firms and markets counter the potential for false narratives with AI?
Well, keeping the human in the loop is probably right now the best way that you could possibly do that. So I think there are some ways that firms are looking at that, how they can perhaps, or human on the loop has become a more widely used term. So not necessarily in the way, but making sure that they are uh, ensuring that the applications that they're using are they know what the functions are, they know where the Gen AI is drawing its information from, and they're double checking. I've been a Gen AI user for 2 years, have seen a tremendous evolution in how firms or how the applications work and how accurate they are. There's still a lot of holes there. So even in things like I, in my own work life, I like to use it for summarizing new regulations or new output from regulators. On the first day, those summaries are not nearly as good as they are in 3 or 4 days when there's been a lot of secondary sources, reviewing those and putting out their own publications on the new regulations. So I think in the risks, we still are in a mode for having to confirm a lot of what the Gen AI is producing, but at the same time, also ensuring we know where it's drawing from. A lot of our members have their own internal Gen AI platforms. They can control what goes into that, what their employees can search, what their employees can ask, and that gives a lot of comfort and also reduces the risk. If you're only using your own published material, research, website as the basis, and then perhaps some other trusted sources, it can really reduce that risk. But I think the other thing is, understanding that a lot of applications are now including AI. Firms should understand that just because you've been using a particular vendor application for the last 5 years, that application might not look the same now because there could be some Gen AI component or an AI component there that employees might not fully understand. So a lot of firms I know have been reviewing how their third-party risk management works, what they can do to ensure that the firm knows where the Gen AI pitfalls are.
Right, right. And really, what has been happening? It kind of feels, in a way, Melissa, like a brand new ball game. With AI. So, given that reality, what, if any, new skills are needed in the securities industry to best take advantage of the AI innovations that we've been discussing today?
I will say it's the one thing. I'm a lawyer. I will say it's one area where lawyers probably are doing very well because we're very good at searching and reviewing. So I think it is one thing that, for once, lawyers and technology have maybe a tiny leg up than they do with their counterparts who are not. We also trust nothing, so that also helps perhaps as well. But skill wise, I think the best skill that we could see is questioning and also having some creativity and where you can use AI to improve your work life. And obviously there's much more technical functions, but as far as the quote desktop Gen AI applications, I think I did see an interesting article a few weeks ago about how firms and businesses in general, CEOs were previously looking for computer science majors and others who to help with the Gen AI revolution. But now they're shifting to see that more of a liberal arts education perhaps might be more helpful because they're more creative and can question more what they're reading and perhaps use the applications in ways that were not previously anticipated. My liberal arts heart really appreciated that. So knowing that my lack of computer science knowledge might actually be helpful was incredibly encouraging. I don't know if there is actually a skill set, but I do think training is incredibly important for firms to take into account, like how your employees are using Gen AI. Are they using it efficiently? Are they using it in a way that's not violating the law, not violating intellectual property laws? Those types of things certainly create some challenges, but training and having people have a better understanding of what tools are available to them is absolutely critical.
100%, and I agree that the training simply cannot be skipped, simply cannot be minimized, and it needs to be ongoing. I would add too, because the nature of what AI can do is constantly changing as well. So that training needs to be a continual loop as well.
Yeah, I think what you're looking at now, what we're looking at now as far as applications will be very different in a year. I think the advancements in agentic AI are going to perhaps be the next revolution, but fully understanding how it works and how that could really help in your work life day to day. Obviously, that's different for everyone, depending on what their role is and their needs in their work life. But I can foresee a day a lot of things will be automated and that there won't be any delay or much more minimal delay in a lot of kind of routine functions.
Right, right, 100%. Okay, Melissa, this has been an awesome discussion of some of the issues that this industry is facing. So, what I'd like to do now that we have a little bit of time left is to take some questions from the audience, and we've got some good ones. So, let's move into those now for a few more minutes.
Sure.
Here's an interesting one for you. And we'll I don't know if you have an answer for this or not, but it did come in. So someone wants to know, are there any case studies that you're familiar with that can kind of illustrate some of the points that we've been discussing here this morning?
Yeah, case studies are very interesting in financial services. I think they can vary pretty widely. My own case studies have really been in the legal space and how I've been using Gen AI. I think using Gen AI as, your first drafter, I treat it like the best high school intern or the best college intern I've ever had. Give it that level of detail and instruction, and you'll get a pretty good output. From our members' standpoint, I think I already highlighted the compliance case study being particularly helpful. There's a lot of advancement there. I think one of the reasons for that, though, is it's relatively low risk for our members, although their compliance is obviously very important. There's a lot of ways they can test how those compliance tools are working. So when you're implementing AI or any technology, quite honestly, that you should be ensuring that you can test and know how it works. So that is a way that I think that is one of the reasons why the compliance function has really been a leader for Gen AI technology.
Speaking of compliance, that's a perfect segue into the next question that we have for you, Melissa. Um, AI advancements are happening with such rapidity. It's all going so fast that there is a legitimate question, I think, at this point, of whether regulations can even keep up with the advancements. What is your opinion on the ability for organizations to even match or to keep regulatory control of all of these advancements?
At SIFMA, we have always advocated for principles based and technology neutral regulations. It's incredibly important as we see technology advancements and seeing the industry change. If you have a principles based and technology neutral regulatory environment, there's no delay, or there shouldn't be a delay in how firms can implement it from a regulatory perspective, a regulatory compliance perspective. That said, there's a lot of gray area, and AI certainly produces a lot of gray areas in the regulatory space that perhaps might need some guidance for firms to get comfortable. Although, I'll give you an example. The SEC's communications retention requirements on their face require firms to retain communications. There are some interpretations that might lead people to believe, or firms to believe, that AI is a Gen AI tool is creating a communication just because the individual is communicating with the Gen AI tool. I don't think that that is actually a valid interpretation of the rule. I think there's only a communication if a firm or if the individual then forwards the results of that AI query or sends it in another message, then that is the communication. But the individual just asking a Gen AI tool for an answer on something alone does not generate a communication. There might be a surveillance or supervision responsibility in that, but it's not a communication. So there are firms that feel that that is holding up their adoption of Gen AI tools. But I think that is diminishing now. There is a widely accepted interpretation, which is that Gen AI tools inputs and outputs are not communications on their face, unless you're using that to draft a communication and then you put it into an email and you then send it. Yes, of course, that's communication. But without that second step of sending it, it's not a communication. But things like that certainly have put some pause in some of our members' minds on whether they can adopt those tools, and hopefully we'll either get more comfortable or we'll see guidance from regulators to say we don't need new rules on this because our existing rules might cover it, but we don't think that this is a communication, and firms go forth and adopt Gen AI tools so that you can be more efficient. But we'll see if that happens. So
It makes me glad that I am not a lawyer and to have to try to untangle all of that, Melissa, because that sounds really complicated. Okay, I think we have time for one more question,
certainly.
and I do not see a crystal ball there on your desk, but I am going to ask you for a prediction here. So, final thing, this is a really good question. Where do you predict that this transformation to AI is going to take the industry in, say, the near term?
I don't know either. So I don't have a crystal ball either. I think we will see much more widespread use. I'd say right now, a lot of the use is happening in our largest firms. I think we'll see our medium and smaller firms also adopting more Gen AI tools, because I think a lot of the Gen AI tools will be incorporated into vendor applications that those firms rely on heavily. So I think we will see a much wider adoption. I think there's a lot of interesting advancements that could happen in the area of Gen AI advice from our members to hopefully have tools where they can provide to their clients or prospective clients on investment advice. Uh, I know many firms are working on those types of models, and we're starting to see some put out, but I think we'll see a lot more of that in the future. I don't think it will replace human investment advice. There's certainly a lot of value in that for our members' clients, but there could be some helping or perhaps a enhancement on the human advice they're getting from the Gen AI advice. So I think we'll see a lot of advancement in that. I do think we'll continue to see a much more use in compliance, probably areas that we didn't even think about. We'll see those tools improve and become more widely used, again, by not just our largest members, but also medium and small members.
That's good to hear. So humans are not going away, no matter what the doom and gloom prognosticators tell you. Melissa, it has been an absolute delight to have you on today. Thank you for chatting and kicking off in such fine fashion this AI Impact event.
Thank you so much, Keith. Appreciate it. And thanks to SmartBrief for having us.
Thank you. Okay, wasn't that a superb discussion? I learned so much from Melissa, and she really set the stage for our next talk. And that is happening right now. It's time to pivot and bring in some AI big guns for more great education on this topic. Okay, and now we are going to hear from some true technology gurus for a deeper dive into this new wild world of AI in the finance industry. So, we have got some great speakers, and our experts today are Danny McCormick, the VP of Product Management with LexisNexis, Joshua Knox, technical AI researcher and cybersecurity strategist with Horizon 3. He goes by just Knox. And finally, on our all-star panel, we have got Shane Ernest, senior solutions marketing manager with Camunda. Now, we are going to kick off, folks, by getting a little bit of biographical information from you today for the discussion. Denny, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do in AI.
Yeah, so as you just introduced me, I'm the Vice President of Product for Global Nexus Solutions, which is part of LexisNexis Legal and Professional. We're the bit of LexisNexis that service professionals in all sorts of corporates doing all sorts of roles. But that also means the financial services industry. And what we focus on is delivering AI services, professional grade services into that industry.
Okay, great. Lovely to have you here. Shane, you are.
Sure. My name is Shane Ernest, and so I lead go-to-market for banking, financial services, and insurance here at Camunda. And so we work with some of the leading banks just to help them just stay ahead of change, be adaptable to all of the different circumstances, whether it's regulatory, technology, all these types of things, just so that they can continually transform their businesses.
Fantastic. And Knox, who appears to be in some kind of a television studio with that great background. Give us a little bit of bio on yourself.
Yeah, I'm Knox. I work for Horizon 3, and we provide continuous autonomous pen testing to all of our customers. And so we are trying to help you, especially as we keep going into this AI world, to make sure that you are secure. I'm personally doing quite a bit of AI research within the company and my team, as far as just trying to watch all those emerging agentic threats and everything that are coming up, to make sure that our product is able to meet the demands and just help you keep your environment secure as best you can.
And few things are more important than that in this era. So, first topic today, folks, is about industry progress in this field. And Knox, we're going to start with you now. You have said that AI infrastructure must be treated as mission critical. So, why is that important? And as a follow-up, is the industry, in your opinion, treating AI this way, i.e., as mission critical?
Yeah, I'm actually going to start with that second part, which is no, they are not treating it as mission critical. They're putting, when we think of mission critical, we're thinking of something that, if it stops, the business stops. And I think right now the problem is that everybody keeps treating all of this AI as, test pilot programs, right? Well, we're going to see how it works. We're going to try to implement it. We're going to let everybody try it out. The problem with that is that immediately, a lot of this works really well. And your employees and your team members will start using it, and they will implement it if you give them the ability to, into databases, into documents, into storage, into all these different areas, right? And not only are they doing that, they're also adding it to their workflows. So their workflows are very rapidly becoming dependent, that's the word I'm looking for, on all this AI, right? So you're looking at it as a pilot. It's not part of your disaster recovery. It's not part of your controls. It's just kind of, we're trying it out. But that's extremely dangerous because if it goes down, those workflows are down. If all of that data spills out somewhere, you got to clean that all up, right? Like there's just a lot, and I think we've got to very rapidly change our point of view from test pilot fun toy to this is a part of our infrastructure and a part of our mission critical infrastructure, just like any other system we would implement.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Now, I think it's probably fair to say that many companies talk about the importance of AI and the risks and all of the stuff that goes along with something that can be this disruptive. But that doesn't mean that all industry players are really taking the necessary actions. I think that is fair to say. So, Denny, let me turn to you now. Do you have some thoughts on what could be slowing progress in the industry?
So in Decision, actually, we've done a survey over the last 3 years, and I kind of will comment or underline on some of the things that Knox has just said, because that survey this year really brought out the problem that he's articulating, that businesses, due to indecision over policy on how to implement AI, are effectively stalling progress within the business. Yet the output, per what Knox has just said, brilliant for most employees. So they are picking up their own tools, using their own tools, bypassing work processes. And our survey this year brought that out. All of the respondents were working in corporates globally, a large chunk of them in the financial services sector, and they were effectively saying, yep, we're using our own tools where the office doesn't provide those, because this is just too good to not be able to use it in my day-to-day work. So the thing that's slowing the corporations down is the fear of how do they get everything right, really, and implement and cascade it down. The irony is that their employees have already adopted it, and the train has left the station. So you find this complete and utter sort of push and pull in businesses today over this, and no one talks about the fact that they're using these tools on the quiet. It's a hidden shadow AI secret.
Without a doubt, lots and lots of shadow AI out there. Now, Shane, moving on to you now. AI is often talked about as if it's kind of one huge entity, one thing. But in reality, I mean, that isn't even close to true. And when we're talking about specifically the financial services industry, what kind of AI should we be focusing on?
Yeah, great question. And I mean, I think obviously the just hype around agentic AI, LLMs, that's obviously what everyone's mind goes to now because that's what's in the headlines. But I mean, let's be real, AI, ML has been around for 30 plus years, if not longer, if you really want to talk about it. So for us, at least, it's not a matter of which flavor of AI. It's just a matter of finding like what the right problem is to solve with the right technology. And to like Danny and Knox's point, it's kind of a fun dichotomy or experience because the adoption wasn't really the challenge. Everyone's excited to use it, but there are risks and some issues with that. So now in terms of actually getting agentic AI into production, that's really where having an orchestration layer in place is what's going to be essential, because you need to have it to be able to act reliably time and time again. So for us, at least, the conversation seems to be shifting less about what to buy, what model's the best, and more so on being able to address the ability to blend the best of both worlds, both that classical ML business rules, very predictable, very good for anything that's maybe real time or performance driven, but now also with this other flavor of AI that's able to handle more dynamic context-based kind of actions. And so being able to have both of those together is becoming more and more essential, especially in terms of these really critical business processes that Knox mentioned earlier as well. So we're even seeing things around just complex onboarding, financial crime, these types of areas where there's a lot of steps kind of already planned out from A to Z, but the context will change maybe how you actually get to that path.
Do you see also, Shane, then in there, do you see being a small disruption or a large disruption? How much are established processes going to be affected by this shift into AI, do you think?
Well, and it really just depends on the process, but ultimately across that value chain, disruption is going to happen because, sure, real-time payments, maybe that's not exactly the place where you want an LLM running because it's expensive, not as performant as you want. Unpredictable at times as well, depending on how you design it. But then there are areas where that can help with, managing exceptions or payment investigation, breaks, that sort of thing, where you can actually have an AI agent come and help support some of that work. While it's not exactly, taking care of the real-time payments, which you wouldn't want it to anyway, there still are areas where an AI agent might actually make sense to actually apply to the specific problem you're trying to solve.
Right. So yeah, perfect. And so what you're saying is that there's so many advantages to AI. There is so much great stuff coming out of it, but it isn't all sunshine and roses. And we cannot forget to look at the risks that come along with the introduction of AI. Along with the good comes plenty of bad. Those risks can include hackers, missed regulations, erroneous processes, lots more than that. Much can go wrong. We haven't even, touched on like the kind of 0-day attacks that AI can launch now, things like that. So there is a whole world of things that can happen, lots of potential downsides. So I'm going to ask all of you in turn, and we're going to start with you, Knox. In your view, what are the biggest risks facing the financial sector with this AI revolution that we've been discussing?
Yeah, so there's internal and there's external. We'll start with external because that's kind of where Horizon 3 is living at, and we've seen this week with the news with Hugging Face and OpenAI and the whole thing about the model breaking out and getting into Hugging Face, right? Like we have seen now that models on the state-of-the-art bleeding edge are capable of analyzing and even finding their own 0 days and trying to achieve a goal. And that makes us I don't know if some of you have heard the term thrown out, vulnpocalypse, yet, but the vulnpocalypse is coming. And so everybody has to be thinking about how are you defending your perimeter. Do you have your own agents that are watching your perimeter? Are you running continually, making sure that you are up to date and that everything is patched? Our patch cycles are even shorter now. We've got to make sure everything is up to date now within, as fast as possible, because people are going to do drive-bys on every single thing they can find. So anyway, the point is that and then internally is the same thing. Now, what we're trying to do is we are also creating our own, and to Shane's point, we were AI before AI was cool. So we were using that AI and ML and all that stuff long before the LLM showed up. And now we've been layering that on top. And what we're trying to do is run inside a customer environment in a safe way, but be able to find as many of those holes that you may not even realize are there early, so that you can close everything up that you possibly can and make sure that if an agent does get in, they have nowhere to go, or you're able to locate them quickly. The last thing I was just going to say is you're absolutely right. There is a lot of risk internally too. There is risk to, you mentioned erroneous process. You get the wrong data in the wrong process early, and a lot of people are not thinking about how to fix that process later or double check that process. And the other thing is we've already also seen what happens when your model provider either one changes the model on you. There's not a great way with a lot of the providers to lock down a model version. They will just upgrade and you're stuck with it. Also, their guardrails are kind of changing on us, and you gotta be very careful. If you try to make some kind of load-bearing process, and then they change the rules, and all of a sudden it's guardrailed, it won't answer, it won't do the thing, you're just stuck until you fix it. So anyway, there you go.
No, absolutely. And thank you for raising the fear factor by bringing up Hugging Face. Yeah, that was really something to see. So Danny, let's turn to you now. I'd like you to speak to the biggest risk that you're seeing in the financial sector. And you can do this, you can talk it in general terms. You could also talk specifically about your company if you want, and what you are seeing and what you're facing, or some combination of the two.
Yeah. So I'll happily provide a combination of the two. I think the biggest risk for users, who are the people that I focus on in product, is not understanding where the information that they're seeing came from and the validity of that information. It's a wonderful thing to be able to search over such vast quantities of data, but it is an absolutely terrible thing to rely on data that's incorrect, made up, or not from a great source. And it could just be the latter point, that your information came from an open web source that isn't credible for your business. But when you're working in the financial services industry, you're making decisions daily, often, about whether you're going to do business with certain organizations or individuals, how you're going to approach that business, even your strategic direction. You can't afford to rely on data that you don't understand its provenance. So we spend a significant amount of time at LexisNexis Legal and Professional and in Global Nexus Solutions, really focusing down on what we call a trust infrastructure, which is really taking all the work that we did with traditional technology, like taxonomy and like all the other methodologies that we relied on traditionally to show our content and show its provenance, and use that in an AI context. We've been using AI for some time, and generative AI really hasn't changed our approach to treating that information. And we're absolutely mission driven on giving our users, if we say something to them and bring back a summarized view of something, we break that summarized view down, we allow them to drill down to the citations and the underlying source where that information came from. We even have a very, very strict interpretation of hallucination. If we can't find the information in the underlying source, that is a hallucination. If we can't find the exact information that's being presented, because we take this trust infrastructure so seriously. And I think it's that, being able to rely on AI for your professional setting. If you're booking a holiday, the risks are fairly low. But if you're in the financial services industry and you're making these tough decisions day to day, the risks are incredibly high, just like they are in the legal industry, of relying on the sources or incorrect information.
Yeah, that's a great point about number one, about the stakes being higher. I love the idea of showing what the source of the answer is, the source of the data. That way you can check it for yourself. Because I believe still, Danny, that we are far too trusting of anything that we get from ChatGPT or whatever. We kind of accept it by nature now without really thinking it through. So that is great stuff. Okay, Shane, your turn. What are you seeing as the biggest risks right now that are facing the financial sector? And like Danny did in Knox, if you want to specify your particular company, feel free.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, so we definitely see it in a few different areas, but obviously the biggest one is, again, kind of like to what Danny was mentioning, which is, giving agents the authority over this kind of work without any enforceable controls in between, what the agent is reasoning and thinking about, and then what it actually does within your technology ecosystem, right? And then on top of that, being able to not prove to regulators, auditors, what actually happened and why is just a huge risk. So you really need to be able to have that visibility in place. Otherwise, things can go real wrong very quickly. Because, just one agent kind of doing some sort of action a couple of times is a small scale, like Danny mentioned with booking a holiday vacation, but have it run thousands upon thousands of times with a very regulated process, and you're putting the organization at risk, which obviously you can't. So again, being able to have a way to enforce an agent's actions, yet still being able to allow them to actually think and reason through a problem without necessarily, again, mapping it all out from A to B, is a difficult balance. Two other things that come to mind as well, which is a little bit different, but Knox also kind of touched on this, but relying too much on one vendor's ecosystem. I think we've seen just how quickly, again, models change, technology changes, and if you don't have a way to manage that foundationally, you put yourself at risk, because then you have to go and rework an entire process because, again, the LLM drifted and it's not behaving the way that it should be. So you really need to be able to have that speed to change, that I think always a challenge in financial services, highly regulated work, all that type of things. But it's essential to be able to get right, because you want to make sure that you're able to choose the right technology that also matches the strategy of the organization as well. And I think the last one is just around cost, which goes back to my original point on making sure that you're choosing the right technology for the right problem. Because again, not everything needs to be solved with agentic AI. It's definitely very useful for many types of work, but it's not perfect for everything. And so, as you scale these AI agents, costs of compute can go up, yet they're able to solve maybe more complex work at the same time. But the challenge again is making sure that you are not just throwing an AI agent at literally every single problem, because there's a lot of times when just classical business rules or AI ML type technology is actually the better fit for it. But I mean, ultimately, for all of these things to work holistically together, you really do need that foundation to help manage that change, provide that level of visibility, and just make it a lot easier to actually control both the kind of classical automations type steps in a process, now including these fun AI agents, which make things a little bit more challenging, but equally exciting.
Thank you also, Shane, for the reminder that AI is not a silver bullet. We tend to, in the IT industry, come back to anytime there's a new technology, whether it was cloud or virtualization or whatever, this will solve all of your problems. It's the last thing we need. And now we're all saying that about AI. But just as with all these other technologies that sort of found their level, AI, I think, is going to do the same thing. So thank you for that little reminder there. Okay, let us move along here with a bit of forecasting. Now, I'm going to show my age here a little bit. As Bob Dylan sang, you don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. So for each of the panelists here, and we are going to start, I think, with Danny here. Within the next 18 months, Danny, are you forecasting sunny skies for AI in this industry, partly cloudy, or maybe massive thunderstorms? What do you see in your forecast going ahead for about the next year and a half?
Look, I'm an optimist, so sunny skies for me. This technology is so amazing. It really frees people up to focus on the aspects of their work where they want to use their brains, and really, really dive in. But you've got to have the infrastructure and the processes around that. The way we've built our technology solutions, we take a multi-model approach. So we are not shackled to one model provider or one type of model. But we're going to see the world move from this experimentation phase and using bits of generative AI to free themselves up in standalone pieces of work to really embedding it into their workflow. And I think people who have done that already have noticed not only how it's revolutionized the work that they're doing, but they're not noticing any sort of diminishment in the value that they're giving to their everyday work. In fact, most people I talk to who are using these tools properly are busier than ever. They're just busy doing the work that they were really trained to do, as opposed to some of the kind of more manual things. In order to do this successfully, though, you've got to be able to track the provenance of what you're using and the data and the processes and how things are coming together as part of this workflow. So you do need human oversight. You do need the ability to put in checks and balances at each stage. And that's an incredibly complicated thing. So my other prediction over the next 18 months is that we'll see, particularly in financial services and professional services, less of we're going to build everything ourselves and much more reaching out and relying on others who focused on solving some of the problems that they need to resolve and then bringing those into their own ecosystem as services. That's something that we hear back again and again from these businesses and something that we're providing to the market. So don't you worry about working out how to cite all of this information. We will do that for you. Don't you worry about making this a trusted approach by using lots of different models to do the right thing or to have all those checks and balances in place. We can do that, and we can show you exactly how we're doing that. I think we'll see more of that over the next 18 months as people realize how difficult this is to do properly within their own ecosystem.
Yeah, indeed, and it will be something that AI is just too big to specialize in all of it. You simply can't. You're going to, I think, have to be bringing in partners who have expertise in those certain areas. Okay, let's go over to Knox now. Knox, do you know, or do you think you know which way that wind is blowing?
Well, I mean, I work in cybersecurity, so I'm going to be optimistic and still say it's going to be partly cloudy because that's there's always going to be the attackers out there trying to do their thing. And by the way, I think you remember the early web. I think we're in the blinky text era of AI right now, right? Remember when all the websites had blinky text, and now like no one would ever put blinky text on a website. But I think we're in the blinky text era. We're trying to figure it all out. Attackers are going to speed up. Attackers are going to really try to utilize AI just like we are, and they don't have as many guardrails. Although the companies try to put them on them. But I'm very optimistic about the fact that we as defenders are going to be able to meet that challenge. We're going to be able to figure out how to be able to also implement the AI into our customer environments and be able to help defend them as well. So I think that it is very important that especially those that are in charge of cybersecurity. Sorry, my cat is like really interested in hanging out with me while I'm on the panel. But I think that those cybersecurity leaders are also going to have to, over the next 18 months, take AI very seriously. Are you arming your SOC team? Are you arming your security team? Are you arming the defenders in your, companies? Are you giving them the AI tools that they need to be able to meet the challenge of these attackers that are also being, and I want to put it this way, augmented with AI? Danny said it right. People are spending more time working. They're spending time working on the things they want to work on. The mundane things are being taken away. The same thing is happening for the attackers. The attackers are able to accelerate to the things they actually want to do, which is attack you. But the defenders are also able to accelerate and be able to hopefully get through their false positives, figure out what's actually exploitable. Hopefully they're having a tool like Node Zero running and helping them to be able to find those exploitable things and get them fixed and be able to feel prepared for it. But I'll just finish by saying I also am with Danny and feel like this is a wonderful time, in my opinion, to be in tech and watching the excitement and seeing all of what is possible and thinking to myself, I need to keep building for what is possible 6 months from now, not building for what is possible today. And so far with that, I haven't been let down by that over the last about 2 years. Every 6 months or so, it feels like I'm reaching a new point.
All right. Knox, cats are always welcome on the event.
You.
So having that okay. Shane, thus far we have had 2 optimistic takes on industry forecasts. Are you going to make it 3, or are you going to rain on our parade? What do you say?
I mean, that would be more so my brand if I was going to be anything was a pessimist. But truthfully, it's definitely a mixed bag for me as well. I think kind of like Knox, I see the opportunity, but I also know that there is going to be a reckoning, right? Because every single firm around the world has been just pumping money into these investments inside their organizations. Tons of experiments, tons of POCs, but the CFO and the board wants to know what the results are. They want to know what are the actual returns of all of these wonderful, fun experiments that you've had, because they're super shiny, they're super cool, but what did that actually do for the business? So I think that's definitely going to be coming up more and more, of actually having to prove value, which again goes back to making sure that you have the right level of control in place and that foundation to actually manage that change. I think in terms of just kind of like advice that I might give folks to just kind of think about, the first is just around having to rethink the operating model. Now that you do have these agents that you can spin up and produce to help with, again, a lot of that busy work that was really just too complicated to actually, automate one-off type of thing. So really looking again at those end-to-end processes, where does it actually make sense to bring in AI agents? Where do you keep humans in control, or, making these types of judgment calls? But again, fundamentally, it's a matter of really just rethinking the entire way that you work now, because it is fundamentally different. Another aspect of this, again, goes back to just that flexibility. You want to be able to have optionality and transposability, so that you're not, again, locked into a certain way of doing anything, certain technology, a vendor. Again, all of those things are just too much of a risk with how quickly things change nowadays. So ultimately, you want to just kind of assume that everything's going to be outdated in a week, maybe a week and a half, because that just seems to be how fast everything is moving these days. So again, ultimately having that orchestration layer underneath to be able to manage that change, swap technology, swap LLMs out as new ones come to market, or you might find one that's just more affordable but still able to actually keep that quality the same level that you need, is going to be important. And then I think the third and final thing is just around being able to standardize as much of this work that you're putting in anyway, because all of these lessons that you've hopefully been able to gather from the different POCs and experiments, you can then apply to other lines of business, other domains, which is, again, just going to help to make it so that you can change faster, make it so that you can scale these benefits that you have seen in one process out to another area of the business that is similar, but with a few small tweaks in the process logic or some rules behind it. It can also apply to that organization and area of the business and make a difference. So don't chase just the agent count, which is obviously what gets headlines and what moves the market a bit, but really try to focus on solving the right problem with the right technology.
Okay, great. So Shane, thank you. You kind of anticipated my last question as well before we move into some Q&A. So I'm going to ask all three of you this question, and we are going to start with Knox. So the scenario here is that you are a consultant with a firm that is launching a new AI initiative. So this is a company just getting their feet wet now, not someone that has implemented and is at day 2 or wherever they are. If you could give them, let's say, no more than two pieces of advice, maybe just one most important, but 1 to 2 pieces of advice, what are the most important things you would tell that company just launching their AI initiative now?
Wow, that's rough. Just 2. If I had to, one would be to start. I don't want to say start small, but start targeted. Make sure it is a targeted process that you have in mind. I think we just try to throw AI, and it doesn't work like that. You have to have a targeted process that you're specifically trying to tackle and trying to see if I can automate it or do whatever the thing is. Second is I would say that make sure that you have clear goals in mind and that you are championing the process. And here's what I mean, because some people like me are really excited and really want to go do AI and just love this stuff, and other people are not. They're on the other end of the spectrum, and they're almost hoping it fails because they don't like it. So I think that you have to watch out for both. You got to watch out for your over-optimistic people that will say, yeah, the AI did everything. And we've all seen the memes of where it's like, you have to keep helping the AI process along, and you spend more time helping it than doing it. Then you also have to have the people that the second the process barely breaks, they're like, the way we've done it for 20 years is way better. I'm not doing this. So those are my 2 things: goals and a little management, and then very targeted. Target to something that you can actually get done and prove and have some metrics around.
That makes a lot of sense too. Okay, Danny, you are up 1 to 2 pieces of advice for a company that is just wading into the shallow end of the AI pool right now.
Yeah, so I'm going to underline again what Knox said. I completely and utterly agree with everything he said. Top of my list, in fact, was effectively look for 2 to 3 high value, highly repeatable processes that you can build out a workflow. I'm going to add on top of that, though, and I know I've said this throughout everything that I've commented on today, but build on trusted data. Understand the provenance of that data, build systems that are able to validate it, and create permissions as well as human oversight on the delivery. I cannot underline that enough. But you don't have to concentrate on everything. I've heard too many businesses say to me enthusiastically that they have an innovation board who have got the number of use cases down to 800 and they thought that that was great. And, honestly, if someone gave me 800 use cases as a product person to concentrate on, that would be my roadmap mapped out for the rest of my life. So 2 to 3. And as Knox said, really focusing on the workflow and the measurability of the outcome, as opposed to just picking a technology and then hunting around for a problem.
Great. Yeah, 800 items would be would not qualify probably as dipping your toe into that pool. All right, Shane, your 1 to 2 best bits of advice for a company just starting to implement an AI solution or solutions.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Danny and Knox kind of summed it up really well because, again, you got to focus on what is the outcome that you're actually trying to achieve. I try to improve cost to income ratios. You're trying to improve customer or employee satisfaction. Again, depending on what your end goal is, there's a lot of different ways that you can solve it. So just being very clear about that, what you're trying to achieve and why, can then help kind of inform the decisions that you make around what you prioritize first. I definitely do agree with Danny as well. Like, again, choosing a high value, but also one that has a level of complexity that maybe is slightly easier to achieve. Because obviously, high value opportunities are plentiful at these large banks and institutions, but being able to right size it, again, to be able to prove the value, prove the methodology behind it, and then be able to, again, repeat that across the organization is going to be essential to be able to be successful. And then, of course, again, just like I've mentioned many times, a bit of a dead, broken record here, but just having that foundational layer in place so that you can actually manage that change, so you can get folks on the same page, so to speak, as to how you're actually going to achieve the strategy through how you design the technology, how you design your agents, and where you place them in your process to actually help. It's a balancing act kind of across the board there, but very essential. And like Knox mentioned as well, change management. It's wild. We've had decades upon decades of material around change management, and yet it's still so difficult because, I mean, for humans, change is inherently challenging. So being able to get that right as part of the strategic planning and alignment will do wonders later on once you are actually impacting somebody's work life, because it's important.
Great advice from the experts, everyone. Okay, that was an amazing discussion. I want to thank all 3 of you for all the enlightenment and insights that we just got through that. Now, we do have time for just a couple of questions, and you can feel free to answer if you feel comfortable doing that, but you do not have to. So I'm going to throw this open to the group. We've got, I think, time for 2 questions, and the first question is this. AI is changing rapidly, as we all know. It is evolving at breakneck speed. So that means the regulatory environment is probably going to have to change along with it. And it's hard for them to keep up too. You can look at the European regulations, the American regulations, all of that. How can firms prepare for these changes in the regulatory environment that are happening so fast? Again, this is open to the group.
I feel like Knox's cat could probably chime in on this one. He's very enthusiastic earlier. So.
We can bring him up as we.
Is he ready? All right.
There
yes.
he is. This is Ragnar. So Ragnar and I think that that first of all, now I'm going to, again, from a cybersecurity perspective, you've got to make sure that you know what you have, how you're running it, where it's being run, everything. So part of what we recommend, of course, is that you are continuously running all of your scans through the environment. I would say like on a weekly basis. Your team has trouble keeping up. You can do it more frequently. Usually your team has trouble keeping up more than that. But you've got to run, and you've got to know what exists in the environment and what you're running in the environment. And as far as just more concretely, from my own experience just building AI processes, there's a huge temptation to allow the AI to help you build these processes. And sometimes you are not doing a good job of keeping track of, again, to Danny's point, what data it's touching, where it's getting it from, what model exactly you're using. I mean, people just build stuff and it works because you can vibe quite a bit of stuff. But if you vibe at all inside an organization, you are just asking for perpetual problems and then as these different things come out or different mandates come out, you have no idea how to answer them, and you've got to rebuild completely based on the mandate, the rule, the compliance, whatever. So that's what Ragnar thinks.
Yeah, I was going to say, I saw Ragnar nodding along sagely as you were answering. So he definitely affirms. Danny and Shane, you are welcome to take a shot at this. If you don't want to, we will move on to the next question.
I would just like to sort of underline a little bit what's been said, which I think is sage advice. You've got to build governance in as part of your build process, as opposed to thinking about it as an afterthought. Because if you do it as an afterthought, you'll be forever changing what you have built in line with the next regulation that's come out. But if it's part of your actual foundational build principles, that will flex with your build over time and allow you to be able to keep up with the regulatory environment that is only going to get more robust around things like accountability, bias mitigation. So I agree with all of those points that were made.
Danny, I think it's kind of amazing how much more compliance is a factor now for parts of the organization that didn't used to have to be concerned at all about compliance and regulations. And now it seems like every part of the IT infrastructure and so many parts of the business have to be concerned with this now in ways that they used to just, that's for the lawyers. And that's about it. It's not that way anymore. Shane, did you have any? Yeah, exactly. Anything you wanted to add here, Shane?
Yeah, I mean, a similar note, again, with these like really crucial processes that absolutely have to run as designed, you can't let a change in technology, a change in regulation be a disruption to you. You need to make sure that you can make that change without interrupting the business. Otherwise, you put a lot of folks at risk. So again, being able to have that level of flexibility and again, optionality in how you actually go about doing that while still maintaining everything running in the background is really just essential, because you need to have, again, that full end-to-end process visibility and control so that you can just adapt as things change. Because as Danny mentioned, it's only going to get more fragmented in terms of regulation. We see it differently in the US than obviously our friends in the European Union do. And that will only increase. There will always be more regulation, more likely than not. But how different administrations go about handling that is going to change continuously.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, time for, I think, one more question. Now, we've already discussed a lot of elements of this question, so feel free to, again, pass on this or to just dive maybe a little deeper on a thought that you may have had earlier. Final question. How can organizations build confidence in AI, both internally and with external clients? And again, brief answers if you can do it, and maybe things that hadn't been discussed previously.
Yeah, so for me, it's avoid generic warnings about being careful. Actually, encourage people to dive into, what does this piece of information say? Where did it come from? How do I validate it? How can I then go on and make my decisions off the back of it? AI doesn't mean you press a button and you get an output and you pass the output over to someone else. AI means you press a button, you get an output, you interrogate that output, and you become very curious about the elements of it because you're going to be relying on it. So that for me kind of really doubles down on what I said earlier, to be honest.
That's great advice, Danny. I think that interrogation is probably sorely lacking in so many organizations now. Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to chime in again. It's really, again, the same for internal and external audiences, right? It's just a matter of proving the value and proving that you have at least, some control over what the agents are doing. Because again, if you don't have any way to actually show that it's making a difference, improving, employees' lives, improving customer satisfaction, reducing costs, and anything like that, it doesn't really matter. And then I think too, just again, finding those champions and champion stories that you can tell internally or externally. just to help, again, validate it, calm some nerves, help people understand that, this is a benefit for your future. It's not just something that's, going to upend everything that you're used to. So trying to shift the perspective a bit.
Very good. And Knox, if you would like it, you can have the last word in this discussion.
The last word is just that Danny and Shane have said everything that needs to be said. I don't need to say anything else. I'm going to go ahead and take the opportunity to say thank you to Danny and Shane for allowing me to be on a panel with you and with Ragnar, and thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
Absolutely. It has been a fabulous discussion today. I learned a ton. For me, it kind of felt in a way like the first day of school being taught by these great wise professors here. So much good stuff came out, and I think a lot of things that our audience today is going to take with them. So I want to thank Danny and Shane and Knox and special guest star Ragnar for being with us and for everything that you supplied us with. It was an absolute pleasure to be on with all four of you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. That was great fun. And I am so glad Ragnar made the time to join us. And as Emerald likes to say, kick it up a notch. Knox, give him an extra treat tonight. What do you say? All right, folks. Now, before we wrap up, we have one more piece of business, and that is the Amazon gift card prize drawing I mentioned at the beginning. Now, as I said, you do have to be present during the live event to win. And the winner of the $250 Amazon gift card is Andrew Fung from California. Congrats to you, Andrew. We are going to be in touch ASAP to get your card, so sit tight. And with that, everyone, on behalf of the Future B2B team, I want to thank our sponsors for making this event possible today. And they are Camunda, Glance, Horizon 3, LexisNexis, NetApp, and Paystand. And thanks, as always, to you attendees for being here with us today and for your great questions. That concludes this webinar. I hope you learned a ton about AI in the financial services industry and can put much of what you learned into practice. Folks, have a great rest of your day.